Good morning, everyone. What's up? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a great long weekend. Today is Monday, June the 22nd. This week, we do have a couple things to talk about, primarily MU earnings, which we'll touch up on here in a second. Not too much red folder news. Last week was pretty hectic. We had FOMC, which shaped up the market on Wednesday. End up having an initial drop, nice bounce on Thursday. We had the live masterclass, which was hosted last week. So there's a bunch of things, at least for us, that was going on. But yeah, hope you guys are doing well. What's up, everyone? Good morning, Kelvin. Good morning, P1, J10, Nicolin. Good morning, Victor, Maria. Good morning, B Roots, Andy, Knight, Lamet, Deuce, Joshin. Good morning, Robert. What's up, Lamet, Deuce? What's up, Cinna? Sorry, I just said those names. Doom, Beezin, Zenoris, Gusta, Bobby. What's up, everyone? Venaz, Mr. B-Boy, TSD. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. With that being said, let's first talk about the economic calendar. There's probably a bunch of names that we can go over today here as well. First things first, not too much on the economic calendar side. Nothing here on Monday. Tuesday, no red folder news. We do have flash services. That's going to be at 9:45. Nothing on Wednesday. The main thing, at least this week, at least for the red folder news wise, is going to be Thursday, 8:30. Core PC price index. We have the final GDP numbers coming out, plus the unemployment claims, all at 8:30 on a Thursday. And then for Friday, we do have the revised consumer sentiment. Of course, the main thing coming to this week that we have to keep in mind is the MU earnings. Talked about this a little bit on the weekend, but this is the main thing that's going to shape up the market. So, overall, semiconductors, especially memory, leading the markets towards the upside. We have one of the biggest names at this point within a bunch of the major indices, MU. So, reporting on Wednesday, we'll see how that shapes up on the markets. MU is gapping up here. And we'll actually look at this chart here in a second, but closed at an all-time highs, expecting it to kind of just run up into earnings, of course. So MU earnings, that's about it. If you're looking at the rest of the names, this is really the main one, as we can see here. All right, with that being said, let's hop straight into the charts. So we'll start off on the major indices. We'll kind of make our way down, and then, of course, we'll head on to some of the tech names and some of the things that we're looking for coming into today. Okay, so yeah, coming into this week, let's start off here on the SPY weekly chart. Let's talk about this here. So SPY, as you can see, weekly time frame. I'd say more so in the past couple of weeks, we've been consolidating after this nice initial push towards the upside. If we're looking at this on the daily chart here now as well, the SPY is, I wouldn't say lagging the overall markets, but we have a couple things leading the markets higher, which is a very good sign, right? It's SMH. We have the semiconductors, memory in specific, that's leading the markets higher. That's why I talked about MU being very important, because really, right, you can see this overall SPY here is kind of consolidating in more so the past month compared to MU, which continue to lead the markets higher. If we look at the SMH here, this one's having another gap up. This one made a brand new all-time highs. The Qs is not making a brand new all-time highs, but a little bit more bullish than the SPY. So you can see clearly the SMH leading the markets. If we look at DRAM, which is the memory ETF, this one's making a brand new all-time highs. So that's why MU earnings is going to be very important coming to this week. If MU pulls back and has weak guidance, or it has a negative reaction with earnings, right, that can definitely have a significant impact on the rest of the major indices themselves. But with that being said, let's talk about the SPY here. Key levels that we have marked out, 730, along with our all-time highs. Other levels that we have marked out last week was this daily gap fill. We ended up gapping up, filling the gap, and then a little bit of a bounce. And right now, we're just kind of consolidating, and we do have an inside bar day. So for the SPY, the key levels that we want to have moving forward, number one is going to be our 738. really the area that we broke out from and we retested last week. And right now, what we have marked out is our 750 or 748. So this is our previous day highs. This is also the area that we broke down from with FOMC, of course. So really based off the hourly time frame, if you want to see some upside above our previous day highs, hold for a continued push, potentially back up and towards our 750 and above. If we ultimately reject off this area, 748, we can see a push right back down in between kind of the range that we had last week, plus this FOMC high and low. So those are going to be the key levels coming to today. Just keep an eye out on that previous day high, 748 here on the SPY, and we'll keep an eye on the reaction that we have off key levels. If you go on to the ES, let's go into this more so on the daily time frame here as well. Similar thesis. Last week, you can see we kind of came back down, filled the very small the gap that we have, and so far we're kind of just in between its previous day's range. So the main level that we do have is this 75.80. We can kind of even readjust this a little bit to that previous day highs as well, 75.80 on the dot. So if we do want to see some upside coming into market open, other levels that we can have marked out here as well is really the area that we broke out from, which is going to be that 7,500. If we do want to see continuation above our previous day highs, hold for a push towards the upside. If we come all the way back down into our FOMC low in this gap fill area, potentially we could be looking for some sort of bounce play. Right now, you can see we already bounced in the overnight session off this level once. If we want to reject and consolidate, that is a possibility. Downside, in my opinion, not really in play unless we have a pop and fade, which is more so a day trade, or we'd have to get underneath that 7,500 for me to have a little bit more or potentially flip a bias here on at least the ES. Let's talk about the QQQ. So the Qs is continuing to push towards the upside here. This one's making kind of this like cup and handle on the daily time frame. You can see we came back down into that gap fill. Buyers are stepping in. We're still above the 9 and 21, and we're forming this kind of flat top break slash cup and handle here on the daily. If we go back onto the hourly time frame, this one looks very bullish. Of course, the SMH even looks more bullish. But for the QQQ, the key levels that we have marked out is our 720. Other levels that we have marked out here is our 736. So far for the Qs, if we maintain above key levels, this one looks like we can push up in towards our all-time highs this week, which is at 750 here. So let's go back onto the hourly time frame. Here, key levels that we have marked out is our 736 here. So that's our FOMC high. You can see we're above our FOMC high on the QQQ. On the SPY, we're actually not above our FOMC high. And then, of course, if we look at the SMH, look how bullish the SMH is. Well above our FOMC high, and this one's, of course, leading the markets higher. So for the QQQ, coming into today, we're going to keep an eye on a couple things. We can mark out that previous day highs now here as well. If we want to see some upside above our previous day highs for a push up in towards our all-time highs is in play. If we reject, pull back, we could see a potential bounce play offer 736, which is really the area that we bounce from. FOMC high here as well for a pushback towards the upside. Only way that will be interested in potential downside, maybe a previous day high rejection, or if we can get underneath our FOMC high. This is a possibility. I don't really see too many short scenarios on the overall indices themselves, at least for the first, at least until the Qs hits all-time highs, right? SMH is continue to lead the markets higher. And of course, MU earnings is going to be the main thing. So that's, I do expect the markets to just continue higher until at least MU earnings, which we have on Wednesday. For the NQ, let's go on to the daily chart here. The daily chart building up higher lows, similar thesis. We're kind of building up this cup and handle here on the daily time frame. A break above our 31,200. We can see this push back towards the upside. So really moving forward, if we can break above we can just see continuation on the overall market. Is there a possibility where we could see some sort of maybe a rejection once again off this high? We could, but as you can see, we already have multiple touches here. We kind of rejected once, we rejected once again. Now we're about to retest this level as a third time. There's a better opportunity that we're just going to break above, continue higher, unless we have at least we're going to move up into this level and then potentially reject. Most likely it's going to dig at least a little bit deeper into that 32,100 and then maybe form like some sort of upper wick. But we are going to retest this all-time highs key level. If we go back onto the hourly time frame, the key levels that we have marked out, let me just actually mark out some other levels here. Number one, what we have is our previous day highs. And then, yeah, that's the level that we can have marked out. Other levels, we can mark out that FOMC. We can mark out that FOMC high here as well. So for the NQ, coming into market open here today, key levels, we have our previous day highs marked out along with our FOMC high. If you want to see continuation above our previous day highs, hold for a push up in towards that all-time highs. If we pull back down in towards that 30, basically 3,500, which is our FOMC high, we're still going to be bullish here on the overall markets as well. We can be looking for a dip add. Only scenario for a potential short, the potential previous day high rejection. Maybe you could be looking for a low risk opportunity back towards the downside. That is a possibility here off that previous day high rejection. But as I mentioned, overall markets looks fairly bullish here on most time frames. Right now, we're kind of forming, as I mentioned, this cup and handle here on the hourly time frame, more so on the daily chart as well. What we like to see now is a push up in towards that all-time highs, 31,000 here on the NQ. All right, let's go into the SMH. This is the main thing, at least if we're looking at the indices wise. This is the ones that we've been focusing on here as well, just because a lot of the names that we've been trading are semiconductors, right? Semiconductors, memory name. So instead of really looking at the S&P and the Qs, we're going to focus more so on the SMH. SMH, as you can see on the weekly time frame, ended up bouncing nicely off that 9 EMA. Strong weekly candle close as well last week. So very strong weekly candle close here. Location, all-time highs here. This one really hasn't consolidated, right? Compared to the spine keys, which now in the past couple of weeks we've consolidated, the semiconductors are continuing to lead the markets higher. A little bit of a pullback, but held our 9 EMA, held the down close candle, and now we're back at our all-time highs. If you look at this on the daily chart, every single dip so far has been bought up. We came back down into that 9 and 21. Now we're just continuing to push towards the upside as well. On Friday, we end up having a strong candle close at, of course, our all-time highs key levels. Some of the levels that we have coming into this week, 640, previous all-time highs. Other levels that we can have marked out here now as well is going to be our previous day highs, which of course is our all-time highs. So for the SMH, maintain bullish bias coming into this week above our previous day highs. So as long as you can maintain above that 660, we're going to maintain the most bullish case scenario for the semiconductors. If we pull back down into that previous day's range, we can be looking for the reclaim setup, or potentially if it came all the way back down closer into that like previous day low slash last week's highs level, that is a possibility here as well, down into that like 650. That would still be bullish here for the SMH, but the most bullish case scenario above our previous day highs coming into market open. But as you can see, the SMH continue to lead the markets towards the upside. We'll take a look at DRAM here as well, which of course is the memory ETF. Primarily, we have like MU, SNDK, WDC, STX, all the names that have been leading the markets higher. So for DRAM, key levels that we have marked out, 80 key psychological level. Next level that I had was one of the Fibonacci's that I marked out from this swing high to this swing low. So for the fibs, drew it from this swing low to this swing high. You can see the fib levels line up 70, 78, 86. We have our 84, which is our negative 618 on the fib extension. since we don't really have anything else to use. So for DRAM, this one, as you can see, another gap up here. So we had a gap up on Friday, another gap up coming to market open here today as well. If we do want to see continuation, we can mark out that pre-market level if we want to see a continuation higher above our pre-market high, or now potentially that pullback down in towards that previous day highs. Best case scenario would be that pullback down in towards our 78, which would be that previous day high retest for continuation. So we can keep an eye out for that, or the pre-market high break and retest above our above our 80 now key psych for continuation higher. All right, let's go into the IWM and then we'll head on to some tech names. Isn't the previous all-time highs around 648 on the SMH? Yeah, 648. Yeah, that was the previous all-time highs level, plus that would be our previous day low. So there is a potential we could see a pullback on the SMH day, but as I mentioned, really we just kind of want to see that previous day highs hold. All right, the IWM, this one's shaping up fairly nicely here as well. Every single dip so far is being bought up. Higher lows are being built here as well. Just kind of holding this 9 EMA plus this previous level of resistance that turn into support for continuation. So we just like to see this really push higher towards the upside. So for the IWM, the key levels that we have marked out is really this 296. If we look at this on the weekly time frame, this one's fairly bullish, a little bit of a slower mover compared to the rest of the major indices, but higher lows are being built. Weekly time frame, nice base. Now we like to see more so the kind of this acceleration towards the upside. So for the IWM, let's keep an eye out on our 296 previous day, sorry, not our previous day highs, our last week's highs for a continuation up and towards 300 and above. So let's keep an eye out on more so kind of just this break and retest. So right now, a lot of it has just been break. You kind of have this retest and it kind of digs a little bit deeper. So same thing. We'd either like to see break above, retest for continuation higher, or it's going to do the same thing where it just kind of comes back down, builds higher lows, and then continues back towards the upside. So key level is going to be that 297 here on the IWM. Personally, you just like to see break, retest, continuation up and towards 300 and above. All right, with that being said, let's head on to some of the tech names that we have coming into today. We're going to start off on Tesla, make our way down, and then we'll head on to a few other tickers here. So yeah, with that being said, if you guys are enjoying this so far, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is the first link in the description below. If you guys also do have any charts or any tickers that you'd like me to go over, you guys can also drop them in the chat now here as well. Okay. Please rate out which names you would recommend for someone with a small account, like 500. I made a video like yesterday talking about a small account, but if you're talking about specifically with 500, you're gonna have to trade names that are very cheap. Obviously, names now are very expensive. If you're talking about like 2 months ago, you could probably trade most tickers. Obviously, not risking the full 500, but nowadays most contracts are very expensive. The only thing you can really trade is like an Nvidia, Apple. The rest of the names underlying over like 400, the contracts are going to be more than $500, right? Closer to 500 to 700 on a one out the money weekly expiration. So the names have to be cheap, like Netflix, names with the underlying that are a little bit cheaper as well. All right, let's go on to the daily time frame here. Let's first talk about Tesla. Tesla, let's go into this weekly time frame. Really not too much has happened. Of course, with the SpaceX IPO a couple of weeks ago as well, Tesla's just been consolidating more than anything. Key levels that we have our 450. Other levels that we have is our 380. You can see nice kind of bounce, and we're just kind of consolidating. Tesla, something we really haven't been paying attention to as much. Key levels that we also have marked out, 420. Nice little rejection at the start of the week, and then we faded all the way down into the bottom of the range, which is that 384. So for Tesla, the key levels 416, bottom of the range 384 here. If we go into that 15-minute time frame, other levels we can have marked out here as well. Let's just mark out that previous day highs, and we can mark out that like 402 previous day highs. And we can also mark out that Tuesday's low. So we can use this as a key level. So today, Tesla, not really too much to talk about on the higher time frames, lower time frames, not too much to talk about here as well. So we'll just keep an eye out on these key levels. Let's talk about some names like Nvidia. This one, let's look at this on the weekly time frame. So far, you can see we're kind of right around this 9 EMA here on the weekly, right around this previous all-time highs here as well. Nvidia is still building up higher lows on the weekly time frame as well. What I'd like to see personally is the break above our 210 for a continuation towards the upside. If we're looking at this on the daily chart, of course, we're not as bullish on the daily compared to the rest of the semiconductors, but the break back above 210, we can see room back up in towards 216 and this 220 here. But for NVIDIA, we need to see that break back above that 210. That's going to be key. Last week, we kind of rejected off this level. Right off the bat, and then earlier into the week, and then we kind of consolidated the rest of the week. So if we do want to see continuation back above this 210 is going to be key. If we reject, we're just going to kind of consolidate right back inside of this range. So until Nvidia breaks, we're just going to be a little bit more patient. There's of course better names to trade in my opinion on the semiconductor wise, something like AMD. This one building up nicely, higher lows. Last week, nice pop, kind of consolidating here now, more so kind of building up this higher low here on the daily chart as well. Cup and handle on the daily time frame, on the hourly time frame, similar kind of thesis right here. You can see we had a nice little rejection on Monday, and I can see we're building up this higher low. You can consider this like a daily flag or a cup and handle for AMD regardless, right? The break above our 550 hold will send this back towards the upside. Daily chart looks bullish. Higher lows are being built. The break and hold above that 550 is going to be key. So keep an eye on that 550 hold for a push up in towards our all-time highs and above. We could come up, reject off this area. So that is a possibility to keep in mind as well. But the break above our previous day highs here is going to be key. And of course, we're going to maintain a bullish bias in the market. So for AMD, at least coming to today, break and retest above our previous day highs for a push towards our last week's highs and above, which would be that all-time high. So let's keep an eye on AMD for continuation today above our previous day highs. As for Apple, this one is consolidating more than anything. Higher time frame is still bullish. More so on the weekly chart, you just like to see it maintain above our 290 for a push towards the highs. Google, similar thesis, maintain above that 350, hold for a push towards the upside here as well. As for Microsoft, this one's just very weak. We haven't even talked about these ones as much. Microsoft, Google, Apple, Meta, Amazon, Meg 7 names, as you can see, have been lagging behind quite a bit. The names that are holding up the market, of course, semiconductors and memory names. So for Microsoft, really not too much to talk about. It's kind of back into the area where we bounced from earlier into the year, which is in a very good key technical area. So for Microsoft, that 360 spot still very good. So keep an eye on that 360 bounce, more so on the weekly time frame. As for Meta, if we're looking at this one here on the daily chart, similar thesis. It's kind of been weak this year. One of the tickers that kind of been underperforming in the markets. Another kind of break retest actually towards the downside here on Meta. So we haven't talked about this one that much. Kind of rejected off key levels last week. So this one's just going to continue down into a key level support, which is kind of our 560 and then potentially even that 520. Amazon, similar thesis. Once it broke underneath that 260, this one's just kind of slowly pushing towards the downside. Amazon now, for looking at this one, daily chart, kind of right at our previous area where we broke out from. Weekly time frame, you can see is just kind of right at our like 240. So really not too much to talk about on that. And then Netflix, this one right back at a key level support. And Netflix is actually coming back into a key spot. If you're interested in Netflix, the area is kind of this like 75 and this 70, which is that previous all-time highs area that we broke out from. So Netflix is in a very good key technical area. Let's take a look at SpaceX. So SpaceX came all the way back into that opening, kind of not opening range, but basically this is our first day that we IPO'd off at. So we can mark out the high and low of this day, 175. This is a good key technical area. If you missed that first initial run towards the upside, you can see it offered a nice bounce opportunity on Friday. Now we actually are right back at our key technical area. What I'd like to see is really base above our 175 for a potential pushback towards the upside. The break underneath, we could see a potential mean reversion back down into this 170s and potentially that 150s, but this is going to be our key spot. Just mark out that 170, it's our 175, and that's going to be key here on SpaceX. All right, with that being said, we'll go over a few other tickers here now as well. We went over all the tech names and the major indices. Let's take a look at number one, AVGO, and we'll kind of make our way down to a couple of these like memory and rest of the semiconductors here as well. So let's talk about AVGO here on the weekly time frame. Of course, we had earnings a couple of weeks ago that kind of started off this initial sell-off in the markets. Now for AVGO, we're kind of breaking back underneath that previous all-time highs. We overshot it. Now we just like to see the reclaim back above for any sort of potential push higher. Of course, higher lows are being built on the weekly time frame. On the daily chart, we have this massive gap towards the upside. Right now, we're right back at our previous level of support, which is the area that we broke down from as well. So for AVGO, the break back above that 410, we can see potential move back up in towards our earnings low. If we reject off this area, we're going to see a rejection, and then we're going to see a gap fill towards the downside and potentially right back down in towards really that 400 key psych. So for AVGO, key levels that we have marked out is right now just this earnings low. That's a very key technical level. If we can reclaim back above, which we're trying to, we can see a push back up into that 420. Above our previous day highs, we'll send this back up into that 420 here as well. If you're interested in a potential rejection, we need it now underneath. Now it's going to be this earnings low plus our previous day low. So if you're a little bit more short bias, you need it underneath that 404 for a potential flip back towards the downside. If you're a little bit more bullish, which in this case I am here on AVGO, above our previous day highs, push higher, or now just maintain above that 404 for a push back up into that 420. As for a few other tickers, let's go on to MU. This one pushing up nicely here. So moving up nicer in the pre-market. We talked about MU, right? Of course, we do have earnings on Wednesday. I just expect this run up until earnings. So for MU, we're most likely just going to continue to push higher. Next level 1200, next level 1300 here. If we're looking at this on the daily chart, nice candle close on Friday. Now making a brand new high here in the pre-market. Key levels that we can have marked out, previous day highs here for MU. Maintain above our previous day highs, continuation towards the upside, above our pre-market highs, next level 1200 on the higher time frames. SNDK. Memory just continue to push higher, of course, with DRAM. Maintain above our previous day highs, continuation towards the upside. Daily chart on SNDK, very bullish. If we look at this one on the higher time frames here as well, previous day highs is going to be key. We can also mark out our pre-market levels since previous day highs is a little bit further away. So for SNDK, longs above our pre-market highs, potential undercut, reclaim, or the previous day high retest for continuation higher. INTC, this one of my favorite names, finally breaking towards the upside here. We talked about kind of the bounce off 100. Now we had that kind of cup and handle forming here on the daily chart. So nice bounce last week right off that 90 MA. Nice gap up here on Friday. And now we had that strong candle close here as well. So for INTC, key levels coming to today, we have that previous all-time highs marked out. Other levels that we can have marked out here as well. Previous day highs. If we do want to see continuation towards the upside, what we like to see here now is going to be the previous day high retests, 135 for continuation. Another possible scenario above our 140, continuation towards the upside here as well. So for INTC, those are the levels. WDC continue to push higher here as well. One of the main watches that we kept an eye on last week. Really kind of led the markets towards the upside. Key levels that we have on WDC, we're just going to mark out higher lows. As you can see, every single dip has been bought up so far. Levels that we have marked out is going to be our previous day lows in this case, which we ended up coming back down to retest on Friday. Other levels, previous day highs, keep an eye out on our 800 if we want to see continuation above our 800 key psych for a push higher, or now some sort of reclaim setup for a pushback towards the upside here as well. Let's take a look at a couple other names. MBIS, nice continued push once we reclaim back above that 230. Now we just want to see the base above 280 for continuation. MRVL, this one made a brand new all-time highs on Friday. We ended up selling off into close, but for MRVL, the reclaim back above that 320 is going to be key for any sort of continuation higher, or potentially similar thing, kind of make like a cup and handle here on the daily time frame. This one I'd actually like to see more so break above that 320 for continuation towards the upside. TSM was one of the names we talked about last week for potential continuation. The break above our 450 is key. Weekly time frame looks very strong here on TSM, building up these higher lows. Finally, really strong candle close. This is kind of the nice strong candle close on Friday. And now you can see we're having some continuation here as well. So for TSM, key levels that we have marked out is our previous day highs, which is our 465, a little bit farther away, up 3% on something like TSM is huge. So for continuation, maintain above our 465. And then we can also mark out that previous pre-market highs for continuation as well for a push towards the upside. Other names like ARM, this one basing above our all-time highs. Keep an eye on ARM, maintain above that previous all-time highs 420. Qualcomm, this one's kind of right at our key level, lagging behind just a little bit. We need it back above that 230 for continuation. Someone's mentioning BE. BE looks really solid. So BE, nice bounce right off that 242. This one consolidated. If you look at this on the weekly time frame, look where it bounced off at. Very nice consolidation on the weekly flag pattern right off that 9 EMA, right back at that all-time highs. And now what we like to see is continuation up into 350 and above for continuation. So for these names, at least for BE, you can just mark out that previous all-time highs key level. So that's going to be key. And then, yeah, for other tickers, Hood looks solid here as well. Nice break and retest above our 92. Had some news as well above the 9. Now for Hood making inside bar day, what we like to see break above our previous day highs for continuation towards the upside. Right now, we're kind of forming this hourly flag pattern. Let's see if we can have continuation above our previous day highs for a continued push towards the upside. And then, yeah, for the rest of the tickers, there's a lot of things to kind of talk about coming to this week. But the main things, let's kind of go over the game plan, at least for today. You can see the SPY and Qs, at least breaking above our previous day highs here now. Let's keep an eye on that break and retest above our previous day highs here on both the major indices. Of course, the names that are leading higher are the semiconductors, more in specific the memory names. So SMH, previous day high retest for continuation. Similar thing here with the Qs. Main watches coming to today. There's quite a things to keep an eye out on. AMD, let's keep an eye on that break and retest above our previous day highs for a push towards the upside. On the higher time frames, we're kind of forming this cup and handle here on the daily chart. As for a few other tickers that are like MU, IV might be a little bit elevated coming into earnings, so probably hands off on MU, but MU previous day high break and retest for continuation. We have SNDK, previous day highs, or your pre-market high break and retest for a push higher. INTC, we'll keep an eye out on that previous day high break and retest here as well. WDC, we'll keep an eye out on the break above for continuation, or some sort of potential previous day close bounce for a pushback towards the upside. Other names that I do like, MRVL for the reclaim back above this 320 for continuation. And then I do like TSM, of course, this one moving up nicely here. Let's keep an eye out on our potential previous day high pullback longs on a bunch of these tickers coming into today. So a lot of names we're going to be focusing on just for more so continuation. A lot of the names that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on our main watch list are just the same ones that we've been focusing on. So all the semiconductors and of course the memory names DRM, DRAM. Sorry, DRAM is very bullish. A potential pullback long for a continuation is in play as long as we're above that previous day high. So we're going to maintain a bullish bias in the markets, specifically on semis and memory names coming into market open. And then for the Qs, maintain a bullish bias above our previous day highs here as well. As for the tickers, all of the semiconductors, and of course, more so specific, the memory is on watch, expecting the markets to push higher up into MU earnings. So at least for today, tomorrow, expecting a run up into MU earnings. And then, of course, on Wednesday, I wouldn't say we'll kind of talk about this a little bit more on Wednesday, but that's going to be a significant impact. We're not going to try and predict what happens with, of course, the MU earnings. We'll see what shapes up after. That is going to be, of course, Wednesday after close. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to get ready for market open here now. If you guys did enjoy that, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. And yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys all tomorrow. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that one is, of course, in the top link in the description below. But yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.